The final months of 1941 confronted American military strategists with an immediate and dire challenge that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of munitions development. The United States Army found itself entirely devoid of infantry portable armaments capable of neutralizing a German Panzer III tank from its frontal aspect. Disquieting intelligence dispatches arriving from the North African theater painted a grim picture, detailing how Field Marshal Rommel's formidable armored vehicles effortlessly withstood the impact of every anti-tank rifle round in the Allied arsenal. The formidable .55 caliber Boys anti-tank rifle, a key component of Britain's initial defense against German armor, proved woefully inadequate, barely marring the 50mm frontal plating even on the lighter Panzer variants. Meanwhile, American munitions depots presented an even more concerning panorama. The experimental T3 anti-tank rifle, a product of the Springfield Armory, existed solely as theoretical schematics, gathering dust within archival filing cabinets. The root of this profound deficiency extended beyond mere weaponry to America's antiquated explosive chemistry infrastructure. Production facilities for trinitrotoluene, TNT, originally established during the Great War, had lain dormant for 2 decades, their machinery corroded and obsolete. When the War Department endeavored to revitalize these dormant plants in early 1941, it swiftly became apparent that the advanced armor plating of contemporary German tanks demanded an explosive yield far exceeding what TNT could provide on a pound-for-pound basis. Chemical engineers stationed at Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey conducted exhaustive penetration trials that September, employing standard TNT-filled shaped charges against sections of captured French tank armor. The outcomes were profoundly discouraging. A mere 3 inches of penetration against homogeneous steel. German intelligence reports further indicated that their newer tank designs incorporated face-hardened armor, which would offer even greater resistance to such attacks. This was not simply a matter of hardware. America's entire philosophy regarding military explosives had languished, with chemical formulations in American munitions remaining largely unaltered since 1918. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Ordnance officers continue to mandate TNT for a broad spectrum of applications, ranging from artillery projectiles to demolition charges. Despite the clear understanding that European powers had advanced beyond its limitations, the Germans had pioneered a substance known as hexogen, while the British referred to it as RDX. Both nations were actively deploying this superior explosive in combat scenarios, yet American chemists possessed a fundamental lack of knowledge concerning its safe, large-scale synthesis. The scarce classified reports that traversed the Atlantic detailed devastating factory explosions in Britain during early attempts at RDX production. A particularly catastrophic incident at a Woolwich facility in 1940 claimed the lives of 17 workers and inflicted injuries upon 43 others. Concurrently, German tanks were being outfitted with progressively thicker armor. Intelligence photographs from the Eastern Front in December 1941 revealed new Panzer IV variants boasting formidable 80mm frontal plates. American infantry forces would soon confront these armored leviathans armed with little more than hand grenades and fervent prayers. While the Army's Rocket Division at Aberdeen Proving Ground possessed experimental shape charge warheads, these were integrated into cumbersome launcher platforms that necessitated 3-person crews and vehicular transportation. Frontline soldiers urgently required a weapon that a single individual could carry, aim, and discharge effectively before being overwhelmed by a tank's machine guns. The precise chemical formula to achieve this critical capability resided somewhere within German and British laboratories, but in American hands, it remained as enigmatic as ancient alchemy. Lieutenant Edward Ewell, a 26-year-old Army officer, harbored no initial aspirations of revolutionizing anti-tank warfare. His primary objective, in early 1942, was to resolve a persistent design flaw that plagued every rocket launcher prototype that crossed his desk at the Ordnance Department's Research and Development Service. Each iteration demanded intricate sighting mechanisms, complex firing systems, and unwieldy shoulder stocks, rendering the weapons excessively heavy and awkward. Ewell's superior, Colonel Leslie Skinner, had been grappling with the complexities of rocket-propelled grenades since 1940, yet none of his designs successfully harmonized accuracy with essential portability. The pivotal breakthrough materialized on a balmy spring afternoon in May 1942, characterized by its almost disarming simplicity. Ewell was meticulously examining a shape-charged grenade prototype within the Aberdeen Proving Ground workshop when Skinner entered, presenting a formidable challenge. They required a launcher that weighed less than 15 pounds, cost under $5 to produce, and could be operated by a soldier with minimal training. Ewell instinctively grasped a length of discarded steel tubing from a nearby workbench, a piece of ordinary electrical conduit, approximately 5 feet in length and 2.36 inches in diameter. He instinctively raised it to his shoulder, mimicking the posture of a makeshift telescope. The ingenious simplicity was immediately apparent. The rocket motor's exhaust would harmlessly vent behind the shooter, eliminating the need for a complex breech mechanism or a recoil absorption system. It was, quite simply, an open tube. Skinner instantly recognized the profound elegance of this rudimentary concept. Within a mere 72 hours, the team had crudely welded rudimentary iron sights onto the tube, affixed simple wooden shoulder stocks, and fabricated a basic electrical firing circuit utilizing a common flashlight battery and doorbell wire. The inaugural test firing occurred on May 14, 1942, at the Aberdeen range. Ewell carefully loaded a 3.5-pound rocket, essentially a fin pipe bomb equipped with a shape-charged warhead, into the tube's rear aperture. He aimed at a wooden target frame positioned 60 yards distant and activated the firing trigger. The rocket propelled forward with a distinct whooshing sound, trailing a plume of white smoke, and detonated precisely on target. The entire weapon had incurred a material cost of only $4.83, yet hitting wooden frames, while promising, offered no conclusive data regarding penetration against actual armor plating. Consequently, the Army transported sections of hull from a captured French Somme tank, 45 mm of homogeneous steel, analogous to the protection afforded to German Panzer IIIs. On May 21st, Ewell discharged 3 rockets at the plate from a distance of 40 yards. The first round pierced cleanly, leaving a perforation the size of a baseball. The second penetrated, projecting spalling fragments 30 feet behind the target. The third shot flew marginally high, but still carved a 4-inch deep crater into the robust steel. Colonel Skinner, visibly astonished, reportedly seized the tube launcher from Ewell's hands, examining it with the reverence one might reserve for a magical artifact. The iconic name for the weapon emerged later, during a pivotal demonstration for high-ranking Army officials in June. Major General Gladion Barnes, observing Ewell discharge the weapon, is said to have remarked that it bore a striking resemblance to the peculiar musical instrument played by radio comedian Bob Burns, a jury-rigged trombone fashioned from gas pipes, which Burns affectionately termed a bazooka. The moniker instantly resonated and was adopted without hesitation. By July 1942, the Ordnance Department had officially designated the weapon as the M1 rocket launcher and promptly placed initial orders for 5,000 units. However, the launcher itself represented only half of the critical equation. The rocket warhead, at this stage, still relied upon conventional explosive mixtures that achieved a meager 4 inches of penetration. To effectively breach 6 inches of formidable German steel, a chemical solution would be required that the U.S. Army had, until then, expressly prohibited from service. Britain's invaluable contribution to American explosive chemistry materialized in a manila envelope during August 1942, hand-delivered by a Royal Navy courier who had flown into Washington via Bermuda. Enclosed within were 23 meticulously typed pages containing detailed formulas, temperature curves, and precise production specifications for a substance the British referred to as Composition B. This crucial document encapsulated 2 years of perilous experimentation and refinement at His Majesty's explosive research facilities, including the hard-won, often catastrophic, lessons gleaned from the devastating Woolwich disaster. Composition B was not a singular chemical entity, but rather a meticulously balanced mixture, 60% RDX, the potent high-explosive compound that both nations had been assiduously pursuing, combined with 40% TNT, and a minute quantity of wax added as a desensitizing agent. The British asserted that this composite delivered 1.6 times the explosive force of pure TNT when employed in shape-charge applications. RDX itself possessed a fascinating and circuitous history. German chemist George Friedrich Henning first synthesized it in 1898, not with any military intent, but as a potential pharmaceutical agent. He subsequently published his findings in academic journals, entirely unaware that the white crystalline powder would one day be transformed into a formidable weapon. The compound's full chemical nomenclature, cyclotrimethylene trinitramine, was a cumbersome mouthful, leading to the widespread adoption of the British military designation, Research Department Explosive, or RDX. The Germans, independently, rediscovered the compound in the 1920s, and commenced manufacturing hexogen for military purposes by 1935. British chemists at Woolwich Arsenal initiated their own RDX research program in 1939, spurred by the devastating properties revealed in captured German ordnance. The American chemical establishment initially harbored significant reservations about adopting RDX, primarily due to its notorious instability during synthesis. The British manufacturing process entailed combining hexamine, a compound commonly found in camping stove fuel, with concentrated nitric acid. This reaction generated immense heat, and if temperatures exceeded 25 degrees Celsius during a critical phase, the mixture could spontaneously detonate. The calamitous Woolwich explosion, for instance, occurred when a cooling system malfunctioned during a summer heatwave. Workers had only minutes to evacuate before 700 pounds of partially synthesized RDX detonated, utterly collapsing an entire building and shattering windows up to 3 miles away. American chemists associated with the National Defense Research Committee meticulously scrutinized the British documents throughout September 1942. Dr. Werner Emanuel Bachmann, a distinguished professor at the University of Michigan, proposed crucial modifications to the synthesis method that promised to significantly mitigate the inherent explosion risk. His innovative approach incorporated acetic anhydride as a buffering agent and meticulously controlled the concentration of nitric acid. By October, Bachmann had successfully synthesized small batches of RDX in his university laboratory without incident. The War Production Board promptly authorized the construction of dedicated RDX production facilities at 3 strategic locations: Holston Ordnance Works in Tennessee, Wabash River Ordnance Works in Indiana, and Radford Arsenal in Virginia. The first American-made composition B emerged from the Holston plant in January 1943. Workers meticulously pressed the material into cylindrical molds under intense hydraulic pressure, creating explosive charges precisely dimensioned to fit inside bazooka warheads. Initial penetration tests conducted at Aberdeen demonstrated a substantial improvement. The Composition B warheads consistently pierced 4.5 inches of homogeneous steel plate at optimal impact angles, a marked enhancement compared to the mere 3.2 inches achieved by TNT-filled warheads. The formidable German armor was already surpassing the defensive capabilities of TNT-filled warheads, which were designed to penetrate mere inches of steel. By early 1943, the Panzer V Panther tanks, newly introduced into production, boasted 80 mm frontal armor, ingeniously sloped to provide protection equivalent to a robust 6 inches of vertical steel. This technological leap meant that American infantrymen faced a significant disadvantage unless a method could be devised to enhance the penetrative power of existing warhead diameters. Fortunately, an unconventional solution was already being developed, clandestinely, in a Harvard laboratory, where forbidden substances were being experimented with. Dr. George Kistiakowsky, a Ukrainian-born Harvard professor, harbored a distinct aversion to authority, particularly when it impeded scientific progress. Having fled the Bolshevik regime in 1920 and subsequently earning his doctorate in Berlin, Kistiakowsky had established an eminent reputation for his pioneering studies of explosive shock waves. This expertise made him the unequivocal choice to lead the National Defense Research Committee's Explosive Research Division in 1940. By March 1943, Kistiakowsky had meticulously scrutinized every bazooka penetration test conducted at Aberdeen, and the results were a source of profound frustration. While Composition B was chemically sound, the warhead design itself was squandering its inherent potential. The shape-charge cone, integral to each warhead, was fashioned from pure Composition B. This presented a critical flaw. The explosive was excessively brittle, resulting in uneven shattering upon detonation, and thus disrupting the precise jet formation essential for achieving maximum penetration. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Kistiakowsky was aware, from German pre-war research, that incorporating finely powdered metal into plastic explosives could significantly enhance their detonation characteristics. Specifically, aluminum powder possessed the dual benefit of elevating the temperature of the explosive jet and rendering the mixture more pliable during the manufacturing process. However, this promising addition came with a significant caveat that deeply concerned Army ordnance officers. The combination of aluminum powder with oxidizing explosives produced compositions that exhibited a dramatically increased sensitivity to friction, impact, and static electricity. This heightened risk had prompted the British to prohibit aluminum-loaded explosives in their munitions plants following a series of accidents in 1941. American safety regulations swiftly mirrored these restrictions, with Army Ordnance Manual 3-200 explicitly forbidding aluminum powder concentrations exceeding 5% in any service explosive. Undeterred by these stringent regulations, Kistiakowsky pressed forward. In April 1943, within the confines of Harvard's Jefferson Physical Laboratory, he meticulously formulated a new mixture, which he provocatively designated Composition B+. Its recipe was deliberately audacious: 40% RDX, 40% TNT, 17% aluminum powder, and 3% wax. The aluminum content, brazenly, was more than triple the officially permitted limit. He cast small test charges in his laboratory using improvised equipment that would have undoubtedly appalled safety inspectors, essentially modified cake molds heated over Bunsen burners. The resulting material presented a dull gray hue, a distinct departure from Composition B's characteristic yellowish tint, and possessed a slightly waxy texture, akin to sculptor's clay. The inaugural penetration tests took place at a makeshift range Kistiakowsky had established on Harvard property in May 1943, as using official Army facilities would have necessitated the disclosure of his unauthorized formula. Employing scaled-down shape charge cones crafted from his aluminum-loaded mixture, he conducted tests against steel plates generously donated by a local shipyard. The outcomes were nothing short of astonishing. Penetration capabilities increased by approximately 35% compared to standard Composition B charges of an identical size. A mere 2-pound test charge effortlessly punched completely through 3 inches of steel plate, carving a deep crater into the backing material position behind it. The aluminum was performing precisely as Kistiakowsky had foretold. It combusted during detonation, superheating the explosive jet to temperatures exceeding 4,500 degrees Celsius and dramatically increasing its velocity. He meticulously documented every detail in a classified report submitted to the NDRC in June 1943, fully anticipating immediate resistance from Army safety officials. Instead, a pressing sense of desperation superseded caution. Intelligence dispatches from Sicily that summer painted a grim picture of American infantry struggling against German Panzer IVs and Tigers. Bazookas were proving woefully ineffective, frequently bouncing off frontal armor with disheartening regularity. By August, the Ordnance Department quietly sanctioned field trials of Kistiakowsky's Composition B+ in modified M6A3 bazooka warheads. Production plants received explicit instructions to adopt the new formula, albeit with significantly enhanced safety protocols, grounded equipment, precise humidity controls, and strict limitations on batch sizes. Workers would be handling explosives that were 3 times more sensitive than anything they had previously encountered. However, the potential reward was a 6-inch penetration capability, sufficient to pose a credible threat to every German tank, with the notable exception of the Tiger's formidable frontal plate. Kistiakowsky's illicit powdered mixture was now destined for the battlefield, with safety regulations cast aside in the face of urgent necessity. The hedgerows of Normandy, far from being decorative garden boundaries, transformed into deadly killing galleries within hours of the June 6, 1944 landings. These were ancient earthen walls, 8 to 12 feet high, densely interwoven with roots, and crowned with impenetrable brambles. German defenders exploited this terrain with devastating effectiveness, strategically positioning Panzer IVs and assault guns in concealed gaps, enabling them to ambush advancing Sherman tanks at ranges under 100 yards. American armor crews found themselves ensnared in narrow lanes, devoid of maneuvering space, absorbing direct hits before they could even identify the enemy's position. The 2nd Armored Division suffered the loss of 47 tanks in the initial week of hedgerow combat, with the majority destroyed before they could fire a single shot. Unexpectedly, bazooka teams emerged as a crucial solution. Staff Sergeant Robert Thompson of the 29th Infantry Division documented one of the first successful engagements in his after-action report dated June 12, 1944. His squad found themselves pinned down in a sunken lane near St. Lo when a Panzer IV materialized 60 yards ahead, its 75mm gun traversing towards a disabled Sherman. Thompson's bazooka gunner, Private Eugene Lucero, fired from a kneeling position behind a hedgerow embankment. The M6A3 rocket, now loaded with Kistiakowsky's aluminum-enhanced Composition B+, struck the Panzer's hull side at a nearly perpendicular angle. The shape-charged jet effortlessly punched completely through the 50mm side armor, detonating ammunition stored inside, and violently blowing the turret 15 feet into the air. Thompson noted in his report that the penetration hole was easily the size of a man's fist with glowing edges. The effectiveness statistics compiled by 1st Army Ordnance officers that July unveiled a remarkable narrative. Bazookas equipped with the new M6A3 warheads achieved an impressive 68% kill rate against Panzer IV tanks when hits were registered on the side or rear armor. Even frontal shots against the Panzer's 80mm plates, at angles less than 30 degrees from perpendicular, achieved a 41% penetration rate. While not guaranteed kills, this was sufficient to compel German tank commanders to maintain their distance or risk catastrophic damage. The 4th Infantry Division reported disabling 23 German armored vehicles with bazookas during the battle for Cherbourg in late June, a stark contrast to the mere 7 tank versus tank kills achieved by their attached Sherman units. The Panther tank, with its superior design, presented a more formidable challenge. Yet, even against this adversary, the upgraded bazookas demonstrated their value in unforeseen ways. Lieutenant James Flowers of the 90th Infantry Division recounted an engagement near Purriers on July 8, where his platoon encountered 2 Panthers blocking a crossroads. Direct frontal shots proved futile against the Panther's sloped 80mm glassy plate. Its effective thickness, when accounting for the angle, approached 140mm. However, Flowers skillfully coordinated his bazooka teams to fire simultaneously at the tank's tracks and lower hull. 3 precisely aimed rockets disabled the running gear of both Panthers, rendering them immobile. Subsequent shots against the thinner rear armor, a mere 40mm, penetrated cleanly, compelling the crews to abandon their vehicles. The after-action report highlighted that aluminum residue from the shape-charged jets had fused with the internal surfaces, generating secondary incendiary effects that ignited fuel and ammunition. By mid-July, German tankers began to adapt their tactics. Captured documents from the 2nd Panzer Division included explicit warnings about American Panzerschreck teams, the Germans' own designation for the bazooka, borrowed from their heavier Panzerschreck launcher. Tank commanders received orders to maintain distances exceeding 150 yards when confronting infantry, to never expose side armor, and to immediately suppress suspected bazooka positions with sustained machine gun fire. The very fact that German armor doctrine was evolving specifically to counter a weapon that had not existed just 3 years prior served as a profound validation of every risk Kistiakowsky had undertaken with his forbidden aluminum formula. The underlying physics of punching through 6 inches of steel with a 3-pound warhead defies conventional understanding until one grasps the intricate processes occurring during detonation. Most individuals envision shaped charges functioning akin to armor-piercing bullets, a solid projectile ramming through metal by sheer kinetic force. In reality, no solid projectile is involved whatsoever. When Kistiakowsky's aluminum-enhanced explosive detonates behind a copper cone, it transmutes that cone into something far closer to a liquid metal jet, propelled at velocities that would render rifle bullets appear stationary. This remarkable phenomenon is predicated on principles first meticulously documented by the American chemist Charles Edward Monroe in 1888, though he could not have foreseen that he was laying the foundational groundwork for anti-tank warfare. Monroe stumbled upon his effect almost by chance while conducting tests with gun-caught explosives at the Naval Torpedo Station. He positioned blocks of explosive against steel plates, one surface of which bore the manufacturer's embossed name. Following detonation, the steel plates exhibited deep impressions of those embossed letters, reproduced in reverse, and with astonishing detail. Monroe realized that cavities or indentations within explosive charges served to focus the detonation energy into concentrated jets. He subsequently published his findings in naval journals, yet the military applications of his discovery remained purely theoretical for many decades. I am from your country/region. I found the video topic incredibly engaging, particularly the narrative of Dr. Kistiakowsky's audacious disregard for regulations in pursuit of scientific advancement. It's a fascinating insight into how wartime necessity can override bureaucracy and accelerate innovation, directly impacting the lives of soldiers on the front lines. The detailed account of the bazooka's evolution and its impact on German tank tactics is truly compelling. For decades, the concept of a focused explosive charge remained largely confined to theoretical discussions and academic conjectures. However, this changed dramatically in the 1930s, when German researchers reignited interest in its practical applications. By 1938, a pivotal breakthrough occurred as Swiss engineer Henry Mohaupt successfully engineered and developed functional shape-charge artillery shells, transforming abstract principles into tangible weaponry. The intricate physics governing the depth of penetration for these charges is influenced by a multitude of variables, yet the most paramount determinant is unequivocally the velocity of the explosive jet. When the powerful detonation wave from composition B+, a potent explosive compound, meticulously collapses the precisely engineered copper cone housed within a bazooka warhead, it propels the metallic material to astonishing velocities, often approaching 25,000 feet per second. This incredible speed is approximately 23 times the speed of sound, creating a hypervelocity jet that deviates from conventional solid mechanics. Instead, it operates under the principles of hydrodynamics, behaving more like a fluid. This copper stream effectively transforms into a liquid cutting tool, capable of eroding through robust steel armor, with a destructive force akin to high-pressure water slicing through dense sand. Ultimately, the efficacy and depth of this penetration are intrinsically linked to the jet's length, its extraordinary velocity, and its inherent material density. The strategic inclusion of aluminum by Kistiakowsky represented a significant enhancement, meticulously designed to elevate both the temperature and the velocity of the penetrating jet, thereby augmenting its destructive capability far beyond what could be achieved with pure composition B alone. The intricate geometry of the cone itself demanded an exceptional degree of engineering precision. Following exhaustive and rigorous testing conducted in late 1943, American ordnance engineers definitively standardized a 42-degree cone angle for the production of bazooka warheads. Experimental results demonstrated that while shallower angles could generate elongated jets, these came at the cost of reduced velocity, compromising their penetrative power. Conversely, steeper angles produced jets that were undeniably faster but proved too short to effectively breach thick armor plating. The specific thickness of the copper liner also emerged as a critical parameter. If the liner was too thin, it would prematurely fragment upon detonation, losing its cohesive power. If it was excessively thick, the detonation wave would struggle to collapse it efficiently, hindering proper jet formation. Consequently, engineers at Aberdeen meticulously settled on a thickness of 0.042 inches, utilizing copper sheeting meticulously drawn from oxygen-free, high-conductivity stock to guarantee unwavering and consistent performance. Furthermore, each individual copper cone underwent stringent inspection under magnification to identify any minute surface flaws that could potentially disrupt the critical formation of the shape-charged jet. Kistiakowsky's innovative formula, incorporating aluminum powder, derived its enhanced effectiveness from secondary reactions absent in traditional composition B. As the powerful detonation wave propagated through the explosive laden with aluminum, the fine metal particles underwent a rapid and explosive oxidation process. This exothermic reaction liberated a substantial amount of additional thermal energy, significantly intensifying the heat of the jet. Specifically, this innovation boosted the jet's temperature from approximately 3,800 degrees Celsius, typical of standard composition B, to an impressive figure exceeding 4,500 degrees Celsius with the aluminum-enhanced variant. This superheated jet not only maintained its structural coherence over greater distances, but also achieved superior penetration efficiency, a direct result of the synergistic combination of its heightened kinetic energy and intensified thermal erosion capabilities. We encourage all our viewers to stay with us for the remainder of this insightful video. Your continued support, reflected in a like and subscription, is deeply appreciated. Please also take a moment to share your geographical origin in the comments section and offer your thoughts on the topic presented in this video. In 1944, German metallurgists, meticulously examining captured American warheads, successfully identified the crucial aluminum content within the explosive composition. Reports indicate that they subsequently attempted to replicate this advanced formula. However, their efforts to achieve widespread adoption were ultimately hampered by significant safety concerns regarding the volatile nature of the mixture and persistent material shortages plaguing their wartime industrial complex. The concept of standoff distance, the precisely calculated void between the warhead's nose and its intended target, proved absolutely indispensable for achieving maximum penetrative power. The copper jet, upon detonation, necessitated approximately 6 inches of space to fully and optimally form before impacting the armor. This crucial requirement directly influenced the design of bazooka warheads, which were equipped with elongated nose cones specifically engineered to detonate the shaped charge at this ideal distance from the target's surface. Should the warhead strike at an oblique angle or merely glance off the target, this critical standoff distance would collapse prematurely, leading to a dramatic reduction in penetration effectiveness. Consequently, training manuals rigorously emphasize the importance of aiming for perpendicular hits whenever feasible, although the unpredictable realities of combat seldom afforded such ideal engagement angles. The monumental task of scaling production from small, academic batches at Harvard laboratories to an astonishing 500,000 warheads per month demanded an unparalleled degree of industrial improvisation, a scale of operation that would undoubtedly have horrified peacetime safety inspectors. In August 1943, the War Production Board confronted a complex logistical conundrum. Composition B+, the aluminum-enhanced explosive, was identified as being 3 times more sensitive to accidental detonation than any other explosive compound American factories had previously handled at such an immense scale. Conventional ordnance plants typically employed hydraulic presses, with workers positioned directly adjacent to the machinery. Under these conditions, a single spark, a minute grain of grit causing friction, or even a static discharge generated by dry winter air could tragically ignite and detonate an entire batch of the aluminum-loaded explosive. Initial safety projections painted a grim picture, forecasting worker casualty rates approaching 2% monthly, a figure deemed utterly unacceptable, even amidst the exigencies of wartime. A truly ingenious solution to this perilous manufacturing dilemma emerged from an unexpected quarter. The Oldsmobile facility in Lansing, Michigan, had already been actively engaged in the production of M6A1 bazooka warheads since January 1943, utilizing the less sensitive standard composition B. Howard Bachum, the astute plant manager, put forth a groundbreaking proposal to adapt the sophisticated assembly line techniques that Oldsmobile routinely employed for the manufacture of automotive components. Rather than having personnel stand precariously beside hydraulic presses, Bazookas meticulously designed remote-controlled pressing stations. Operators at these stations would work from behind formidable reinforced concrete barriers, an impressive 12 feet in thickness, ensuring their safety. To observe the critical pressing process, workers utilized periscope-style mirror systems, an innovative adaptation borrowed directly from advanced submarine technology. In the unfortunate event of a batch detonation, the blast forces were ingeniously designed to vent harmlessly upward through specially constructed frangible roof panels, thereby safeguarding the operator, who remained securely protected behind the barriers. The U.S. Army swiftly approved this pioneering design in September 1943, and Oldsmobile immediately embarked on a rapid 90-day conversion period for its facility. The recruitment strategy for this significantly expanded workforce deliberately targeted an often overlooked segment of the labor pool: married women whose husbands were serving overseas. Between October 1943 and January 1944, the Lansing facility successfully hired an impressive 2,470 women, many of whom possessed no prior industrial experience beyond the operation of household appliances. The comprehensive training regimen meticulously emphasized an unwavering attention to detail over sheer physical strength. New employees underwent an intensive 3-week training period, during which they mastered the critical skills of inspecting copper cone liners under powerful magnification, accurately identifying any contamination within explosive powder batches, and rigorously adhering to grounding procedures specifically designed to prevent the dangerous accumulation of static electricity. Betty Fitzgerald, who joined the plant in November 1943 at the age of 23, vividly recounted her training experience in a 1986 oral history interview, stating, "They taught us to move deliberately, never rush, and treat every grain of that gray powder like it was nitroglycerin, because functionally it was." The intricate production sequence commenced with the precise stamping of copper blanks from large, rolled sheets, which were then skillfully drawn into the required cone shapes using powerful hydraulic presses operating at a formidable 12 tons of pressure. Subsequently, workers meticulously inspected each formed cone for any surface irregularities, utilizing specialized backlit examination tables to highlight even the slightest imperfections. Any scratch exceeding 0.03 inches in depth resulted in the immediate rejection of the component. Accepted cones were then transported to the explosive loading stations, where composition B+ arrived in wax-coated pellet form, having been pre-mixed at the Holston plant in Tennessee. These sensitive pellets were carefully packed in grounded metal containers, which were further filled with inert gas to prevent any oxidation during transit. Workers, dressed in specialized cotton clothing and conductive footwear, leather shoes, meticulously fitted with copper rivets connecting to grounded floor mats, then proceeded to load precisely measured quantities of these pellets into hydraulic pressing chambers. The pressing operation itself demanded an extraordinary level of precision. Insufficient pressure would prevent the explosive from forming a solid charge with consistent and predictable detonation characteristics. Conversely, applying excessive pressure could generate dangerous heat through friction, potentially triggering an accidental detonation. To mitigate these risks, Oldsmobile engineers meticulously devised a graduated pressing sequence. This involved an initial compression at 1,500 psi, followed by 3 carefully calibrated incremental steps that progressively increased the pressure to a final 4,000 psi. Crucially, 30-second cooling intervals were implemented between each step to prevent heat buildup. The entire pressing cycle for a single warhead was precisely timed to take 7 minutes. Remote operators diligently monitored an array of pressure gauges and temperature sensors, poised to abort any batch that exhibited anomalous readings, thereby preventing potential incidents. Rejected charges were then carefully transferred to specialized blast containment vessels and subsequently transported to outdoor detonation pits for safe and controlled disposal. By March 1944, the Lansing facility had not only met but exceeded its ambitious production targets, fabricating an impressive 18,000 warheads daily. That same spring, 2 additional manufacturing plants became operational: General Motors facility in Flint and a skillfully converted furniture factory located in Grand Rapids. This combined industrial effort dramatically boosted the total output to an astonishing 547,000 warheads monthly by May 1944, a critical surge in production that arrived just in time for the pivotal Normandy invasion. Remarkably, the initially predicted high casualty rates never materialized. Through a combination of meticulous engineering design and exhaustive worker training, the 3 plants collectively experienced only 2 fatal accidents throughout 1944, both of which were attributed to transportation mishaps rather than failures within the production line itself. This incredible feat represented a profound triumph for American industry, which had successfully undertaken the mass production of a chemical compound that academic laboratories had previously deemed far too perilous to handle. These groundbreaking weapons were then delivered to the battlefields of Europe, where their innovative capabilities fundamentally rewrote the established rules of armored warfare. The Pacific theater of operations presented a distinct set of challenges that were largely absent from the European battlefields. Japanese armor, in comparison, was considerably lighter. For instance, the Type 97 Chiha medium tank featured merely 25 mm of frontal armor, a thickness that could be readily defeated even by standard Composition B warheads. However, Japanese defensive strategies were not predicated on large-scale tank engagements, but rather on formidable fortified positions meticulously carved into the resilient volcanic rock and coral limestone terrain. Iwo Jima, therefore, emerged as the ultimate proving ground where the bazooka's role profoundly evolved, transforming it from a primary anti-tank weapon into an indispensable tool for bunker busting. The island's 21,000 Japanese defenders had dedicated 8 arduous months to excavating an intricate network of 11 miles of interconnected tunnel, establishing firing positions protected by reinforced concrete walls up to 4 feet thick and gun ports that offered minimal exposure to attacking forces. Marine Corps after-action reports, meticulously compiled from the fierce February 1945 Iwo Jima invasion, provide detailed accounts of how bazooka teams ingeniously adapted their tactical approaches. Traditional demolition charges typically necessitated engineers approaching bunkers within arm's reach, a virtually suicidal endeavor against Japanese defenders, who were notorious for holding their fire until American troops were dangerously within grenade range. Bazookas, however, offered a crucial standoff capability, allowing engagement from a safer distance. Corporal Tony Stein of the 28th Marines notably utilized his battalion's M9A1 bazooka, the improved 1943 model featuring aluminum-enhanced warheads, to systematically dismantle 14 pillboxes during the intense first day of fighting on February 19. His effective technique involved firing multiple rockets at the exact same impact point on the robust concrete walls. Each successive detonation progressively weakened the structure until the final, decisive shot successfully punched through. Stein's official citation specifically highlighted that the shape-charged jets carved impressive cavities, some up to 18 inches deep, into the reinforced concrete, effectively fragmenting the material and generating lethal spalling that incapacitated or killed the defenders within. The brutal reality of cave warfare on Okinawa, spanning from April to June 1945, pushed the tactical deployment of bazookas to their absolute operational limits. Japanese forces had meticulously fortified over 400 intricate cave complexes, strategically burrowed into the island's formidable southern ridges. Conventional artillery bombardments and the searing flames of flamethrowers proved largely ineffectual against these entrenched positions. The labyrinthine caves extended to remarkable depths, frequently featuring multiple interconnected chambers and sharp, right-angled turns that effectively nullified the destructive blast effects of most ordnance. Army intelligence officers, meticulously scrutinizing captured Japanese defensive blueprints, uncovered that numerous caves had been significantly reinforced with salvaged steel rails and robust I-beams, repurposed from demolished infrastructure, thereby creating formidable barriers that even conventional high explosives struggled to breach. In response to this dire challenge, the 96th Infantry Division urgently requested priority shipments of M20 Super Bazooka rockets, a more potent, larger 3.5-inch diameter variant, which contained an impressive 8.5 pounds of composition B+ explosive and had only recently entered limited production in March 1945. Lieutenant Colonel Howard Naylor's astute combat engineers spearheaded an innovative cave-clearing methodology on Okinawa, ingeniously fusing the raw power of bazookas with principles of creative geometry. These specialized teams would strategically launch rockets at oblique angles into the constricted cave entrances, masterfully utilizing the interior walls to ricochet the projectiles, guiding them deep into otherwise inaccessible chambers. The high-velocity, shape-charged jets, upon detonation, would unleash their destructive energy against whatever surface the warhead ultimately struck, sometimes piercing through formidable steel reinforcements, at other times igniting hidden ammunition stores, and quite frequently engaging enemy personnel directly. The 7th Infantry Division commendably reported the successful clearance of 87 such cave positions using this ingenious method throughout May 1945, with an average expenditure of 6.3 rockets per cave. While inherently dangerous due to the unpredictable nature of ricochets, which occasionally sent rockets arcing back towards American positions, this groundbreaking technique dramatically reduced casualty rates by a remarkable 70% when compared to the perilous direct assault methods previously employed. We sincerely invite you to stay with us and watch the conclusion of this insightful video. Your support, in the form of a like and subscription, would be deeply appreciated. We also encourage you to share your thoughts by commenting below, letting us know where you are from and what you think about the compelling topic presented in this video. The Korean War subsequently brought the bazooka's operational focus full circle, returning it to its original anti-armor warfare role, when North Korean T-34-85 tanks brazenly crossed the 38th parallel on June 25, 1950. These formidable Soviet-supplied tanks boasted 90mm frontal armor, meticulously sloped at steep angles, which effectively increased its protective value to approximately 130mm against perpendicular impacts. Early American engagements against these armored behemoths proved disastrous. Task Force Smith's 2 bazooka teams, for instance, fired a total of 22 rockets at the advancing T-34s on July 5, 1950, yet achieved 0 penetrations. The rockets in question were surplus M6A3 warheads, manufactured back in 1944, and their composition B+ charges had significantly degraded over 6 years of storage in the humid and unforgiving conditions of the Pacific Theater. Frantic cables, conveying an urgent sense of desperation, promptly reached the Pentagon, demanding fresh ammunition and more powerful, updated weaponry. The critical solution finally materialized in August 1950, coinciding with the Marine Corps' pivotal landing at Incheon. These Marines were equipped with the advanced M20 Super Bazookas, now loaded with newly manufactured warheads. These updated munitions incorporated an improved explosive formula designated composition B4, which contained a crucial 20% aluminum powder. Kistiakowsky's original ratio, once deemed too risky, had been safely increased through the implementation of enhanced manufacturing safety controls developed since 1945. This innovation significantly boosted penetration performance against T-34 armor, reaching an impressive 8.5 inches under optimal conditions. Soviet technical intelligence teams, meticulously analyzing the fragments recovered from knocked-out T-34s, identified the unique aluminum-loaded explosive composition of these warheads. This precise analysis directly influenced the Soviet Union's subsequent development of the RPG-2 and, later, the iconic RPG-7, both of which notably incorporated aluminum powder in their warhead charges, a direct and undeniable lineage tracing back to the forbidden chemistry that Kistiakowsky had pioneered in his Harvard laboratory a dozen years prior. Indeed, the conceptual descendants of the original bazooka remain actively in service across the globe today. From the American M72 Law rockets to the formidable Russian RPG-29s, every modern shape-charge anti-tank weapon owes its fundamental effectiveness to the metallurgical principles and the sophisticated explosive chemistry that were painstakingly refined during those desperate months in 1943 when penetrating German steel seemed an insurmountable challenge. Kistiakowsky's audacious willingness to push the boundaries and, at times, even violate conventional safety regulations in his relentless pursuit of superior chemistry did not merely contribute to the Allied victory in World War II. It fundamentally established the core approach that continues to govern anti-armor weapon design 8 decades later, a testament to his enduring legacy.